G'day everyone, this is a build report for the do-it-yourself guitar pedals Vulcan Drive. It's basically I've called it a sandbox. Where's my fingers? There. Sandbox. Distortion effect, but basically all that means is that you can build 3 circuits around the one PCB. The MXR Distortion Plus and the Ross Distortion are so similar that I decided just to do bill of materials for both of those. I've actually gone with a dual op amp instead of a single op amp, which is more in favour of the Ross Distortion, because there's just so many Distortion Plus PCBs out there that use a single op amp. I just thought I'd do something a little bit different with that and use a dual op amp so that you can try different dual op amps with a Distortion Plus as well, just something that's a little bit different. Yeah, and of course you can build the DOD 250 overdrive around the same circuit as well. And as you can see from the image, it will fit into a 1590A. And of course, if it fits into a 1590A, you can put it into a 1590B if you're not confident about putting a 1590A. Even though it's a simple circuit, you should think about, if it's the first build that you're going to do, whether you should put it into a 1590A, because, you know, I mean, it is a little bit of sort of electronic microsurgery going on inside. These pedals are pretty small, so if you're not confident, just put it into a 1590B, and then you'll have loads of room. As you can see when I flip it over, it's not tight by any means for a 1590A. It's actually pretty spacious. But if you're new to building guitar pedals, it probably could be a little bit tight for you. So you know, you have to be accurate with your drilling and all that sort of stuff. But you know, up to you. If you plan everything out, fine, you should be fine. And just make sure you use the right hardware, like the miniature DC jack there. And if you use the slimmer enclosed in-out jacks as well, you'll save a bit of room with that too. So I've gone with one of my little PCB adapter boards again. They just make things look a bit neater. And I think at the moment I've got it set up for Distortion Plus. I see I've put in that ceramic capacitor. I'm just trying to remember. I'm just going to look at the bill of materials, because I can't actually remember which one that applies to, and it is actually the Distortion Plus. So it's set up for the Distortion Plus at the moment. I've actually got an extra GE diode in there as well, that bottom one, D4, and I've used they are actually 1N34A Semtech 1N34A, and I know a lot of people have said that those orange germanium diodes are actually silicon, but I've actually tested these and they're definitely not. They're germanium, and they're a lot cheaper than the big glass 1N34A with the clear glass with the green band. They're actually quite a lot cheaper, so I'm not quite sure why no one uses those, but that's my tip of the day, I guess you could say. So as you can see, fits pretty easily. I've soldered in the op amp. I don't use sockets much anymore, apart from the diodes, just because I wanted to experiment with the Ross Distortion / Distortion Plus config. Yeah, it's all goes in pretty easily, and there's actually a lot of common values for both of those, the Ross Distortion and the Distortion Plus. You can see the resistor bands are all very similar. There's a lot of 1 meg resistors, so it's pretty cheap to assemble in that respect. You can just buy 10 1 meg resistors, and you've got almost all the resistors covered. So in the sound demo, I'm thinking I might just do a comparison between a Ross Distortion and a Distortion Plus to see you can hear the difference. Of course, the IC is meant for the Ross Distortion, so it's not an exact comparison between a Distortion Plus and a Ross Distortion, because a Distortion Plus uses a single op amp, which I'm pretty sure is a TL071, whereas this uses an RC4558, so it's a little bit different. And I've also said in the build doc, if you're going to build one, just make sure with the pot value, just have a look. I can't remember what pot values I use, but basically just go with the ones that I've recommended. That's what I've used. I'm pretty sure it was 500K for the drive, which is a pretty standard sort of drive pot value. It's getting up there though. You could go 1 meg as well. You start to get a bit noisy though when you really start to spank it, the IC that is. And I think I used just 10K on the output, or maybe it was 100K. Can't remember. Doesn't really matter too much about the volume pot because you'll just get a little bit of extra volume out if you use a higher value anyway, so don't worry too much about that. But yeah, read the build notes anyway. I talk about the pots in the build notes. Can't remember what I wrote in there. I did that. I actually built this quite a while ago, and as usual, I never get time to do the videos and everything for it these days. So yeah, it took me a bit of time to get to doing these videos. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it that I wanted to talk about with this one. Pretty straightforward. Distortion Plus, you know, it's not a revolutionary circuit. You know, I'm not on the cutting edge of pedal circuits here, but I've got a bit of an affection for the Distortion Plus. It was the second effect that I've ever built, and it's one that I've come back to a few times as well. It's kind of, let me see if I can explain why I like it. It's kind of got the sound that doesn't have a very specific sound. It's quite a general sort of distortion. I find it's good to add to other pedals as well. A lot of, I hate to use this word, transparent overdrives and distortions. This is probably the most transparent distortion pedal that I've ever built. For overdrives, I'd look at things like the Electra or even the M Drive. They're both pretty transparent. But for this one, for distortion, the Distortion Plus is probably my pick for a transparent distortion, which in my opinion basically just means that you can mix it with other distortions and it plays nice with those. You can use it to boost other distortions because it doesn't have an overpowering sort of tone to it. You know, it doesn't sound like sort of, if it had a nasally tone, it would just make your other distortion sound funny, you know, like because you'd be combining two heavily bass cut effects together, and then it just doesn't sound very good. But because this is kind of neutral, it tends to mix well with those. And of course, I haven't seen a layout for a Distortion Plus in a 1590A, so that's obviously something that's a very good candidate for that because it's not a very complicated circuit. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I can't think of anything else. Just a note on that LED. I've done it again. Britney Spears song for you there. I've actually I don't know how I managed to do it again. Maybe I wired it backwards, but that LED is not working at the moment. But I'm going to press on with the sound demo, even though it doesn't work. I'll put a note in the sound demo just so you know that it doesn't work as well, because time is very short these days. So I'll just get on to the sound demo, and I might do a bit of I'll do a sound comparison between a Distortion Plus and a Ross Distortion, just so you can see the difference. I think it's probably going to be a pretty subtle one. You're going to get more of a volume cut with the Distortion Plus, of course, but I don't think there's going to be a huge difference. That little ceramic capacitor might make a bit of difference, and I've actually got a 30 picofarad capacitor, just something that a value that I picked that I thought sounded pretty good, whereas the Distortion Plus officially uses a 10 picofarad ceramic cap, and I'm pretty sure adding that cap, I experimented with it a while ago and I can't remember. Oh yeah, it cuts treble, so the higher you go, the more treble you cut, and I actually found it sounded a bit more ballsy with more treble cut, because as you may know, with the Distortion Plus, it can get very, very bitey, so yeah, it actually helps to counter that by using that high value ceramic cap. So that's it for this video. I will go into the sound demo now. Obviously, these are on my web store. That's what do-it-yourself guitar pedals. I keep mentioning the boards if you want one. Yeah, let's take a listen to it next, and we'll go on to the sound demo in the next video. Thanks for watching.